and welcome to this episode of Focus On, as we put the spotlight on the 11th edition of the Africa Think Tank Summit, just concluded in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, which brought over 500 delegates from 40 countries together to discuss how Africa can translate tax policy into tangible public financial management reforms. Under the theme, from taxation to action, bridging policy and implementation in the public financial management in Africa, the summit spotlighted technology-driven tax systems, AI-enabled fiscal tools, and the critical role of think tanks in shaping sustainable development. Joining me now is Mamadou Biteye, the Executive Secretary of the Africa Capacity Building Foundation, the institution behind this flagship event. Thank you so much for your time today, sir. And let's start with some of the conversation here. We're looking at the topic here, from taxation to action. How was this theme received by the participants?
First of all, thank you for having me. This was really well attended, unlike previous editions, and the diversity of attendees, representatives from governments, ministries, parliaments, African think tanks, research institutions, civil society, the private sector entities, and development partners. Also, I must say that we had delegates from over 40 African countries, but also from other regions of the world. This talks really about the timeliness of this discussion, particularly in the current global context, fiscal context. So it was very well received. Participants were very engaged and discuss really very important topics on really how to support effective domestic resource mobilization in Africa to support economic development financing.
No doubt the platform is quite growing, over 500 delegates, 24 sessions handled here. But what would you consider as the most significant outcome from the conversations in Addis Ababa?
Despite all the discussions on several topics, whether it is technology-oriented tax systems, how governments can strengthen domestic resource mobilization through fair, efficient, and technology-enabled tax systems, while reducing reliance on official development aid and debt, I think was very important. Obviously, also, you cannot discuss tax systems without discussing public finance management systems, because the two are the two sides of the same coin. Really calling for the institutionalizing of evidence-based and transparent public finance management system was critical, and because it forges citizens' trust, and as well as leveraging new technologies and the role that think tanks can play in this. But the discussions were one thing, but what were the results and what are the decisions that actually came out of that? We all agreed that this was not going to be a summit that ends just with intentions, and that we needed to follow up. So ACBF, as the convener, has been tasked to develop a post-summit action plan for 2025-2026, and that is aligned to the Agenda 2063 second 10-year implementation plan, and also to facilitate capacity building sessions for national public finance management actors, and also produce an annual public finance management progress report so that we can monitor progress on reforms and innovations emerging from the summit. So the summit concluded with very action-oriented and very concrete recommendations.
It's good to see that such a come out from there in terms of pulling action together from the conversations there at the summit. And then tracking back a little, I'm looking at some of the areas that more or less the emphasis was on at the summit. I'm looking at the communique released here, and I'm seeing that technology-enabled tax systems, AI-driven revenue management were some of the key areas that were also emphasized there. But what would you say are some of the practical steps that that government are already taking in this regard to digitize taxation and also improve compliance? And how can we see that scale?
Well, today, actually, in the current context I mentioned, which is the shrinking fiscal space globally, and the mounting the situation of the indebtedness of countries in Africa, where the levels of debt have surpassed what it was 20 years ago when debt relief was approved for these countries. So we are back to the previous square where we were, and with also reducing development aid, all countries are very conscious that they need to first rely on themselves, and also looking at the current situation whereby a minority of citizens are taxed due to the structure of our economies, which are dominated by informal sector. Governments are taking several steps. One is to look at how to broaden the tax base and make democratize taxation so that it is a contribution by more, if not all, citizens. Second, it is also improving on their efficiency by increasing investment in capacity building of the tax administrations, but also modernizing through digitalization of systems. That is also another way, other steps that governments are taking. So this is also being done with the support of ACBF through the Africa-Finnish Partnership on Taxation Capacity in Africa, where we support several African tax administration in these tasks. Also, ACBF has launched courses that support also the training of tax administration officials and agents.
Yeah, because it's good to see a lot of these outcomes from the summit here. The action plan now is now in the works here. What sort of timelines are we looking at here to get this moving?
Well, actually, we are already immediately after the summit, we have put together a task force that is already working on the action plan. Instead of 25, 26, because 25 is already done, we are looking at the action starting from the beginning of 2026, from January. But this plan is already being developed and we believe will be approved by all the stakeholders and including the African Union Commission by the end of the year, so that in the beginning of 2026 action can start.
Because still looking at the communique here, I'm seeing quite a number of recommendations that came through from the conversations there. But one critical one is also around, looking at think tanks as catalysts of reform and how they could be funded in a sustainable manner. Can you speak to some of the conversations that came out in that regard and what likely steps are going to come out from this as well?
That also every action here, fortunately, we have a specific projects that supports it or initiative. Specifically for the think tank, at the summit, we launched the Africa Think Tank project, which is a new project supported by the World Bank Group, but implemented by the African Union Commission in partnership with ACBF and Auda NEPAD. And this project is meant to support the capacities, both institutional, financial, and technological capacities of think tanks to enhance the research capacities and production capacities. So a first call has already been launched. And as we speak, this call has been closed and we are in the process of selecting the winners who have in consortia submitted research projects, but also their institutional capacity needs that will enable them to successfully run those research projects, but also others. And the winning consortia will be funded. We are looking at distributing about $10 million this year for the first call. And this is going to be taking place every year for the next 4 years.
Yeah, because looking at other areas here, I'm seeing that there was a call for evidence-based and transparent public financial management, and that call was quite critical. But how then would you say that African parliaments and civil society can more or less better participate in that budget process oversight and also help in audit accountability?
You know, one of the very important things is that the ecosystem has been a little bit somehow not working together and fully integrated. The think tanks and research institutions were conducting research, looking at some policymakers to actually take them and do something with it. Policymakers had specific questions they were wrestling with to inform the policies they want to enact or programs they want to develop, but not necessarily finding the means to get the answers to those questions, etc. Parliament is involved punctually in these discussions. So what this summit and this platform enabled is really bringing the policymakers, the think tanks, and including Parliament, but also stakeholders in the system, such as taxpayers, including the private sector, and civil society together, so that research can be demand-driven, can really address the specific questions that actually policymakers are wrestling with, to have the insights and the evidence of success that policies that they put in place, regulations that they put in place are not counterproductive and are leading to the expected outcomes, but also brings transparency and inclusivity by ensuring that the evidence and the information and insights and policy briefs are also available to civil society, to Parliament, and everyone else actually who is a stakeholder in the ecosystem.
The interesting times moving from taxation to action. I've been speaking to Mamadou Biteye, the Executive Secretary of the Africa Capacity Building Foundation. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and for this insight that you have shared with us as Africa strives to move from taxation to action. It's clear that technology, accountability, and local ownership will be key to driving fiscal transformation. We will definitely be watching closely as ACBF rolls out the post-summit action plan and publishes the upcoming Africa PFM progress report next year. Thank you so much for your time.